Chapter 3, Build. We want Scrum Masters to be relaxed and confident in their ability to help increase speed while quality maintains or climbs. To do that, we have Scrum seminar attendees actually build things themselves using Scrum in Scrum teams. We have them apply the Scrum framework as they learn it, for them to see speed and increase and quality increase. Believe it or not, there's a lot of professionals that don't believe you can speed up without trading quality. There's a huge amount of evidence, many research papers, many businesses that show you can speed up while increasing or maintaining quality, but many people don't believe that. So we need to show it in the Scrum Master class. And that happens here in Module 3 or in the book, Chapter 3, Build, where they actually experience it. They see speed go up while quality climbs, so we can break that limiting mindset. We often ask seminar attendees how they felt using ranking of happiness on a scale of 1 to 5, so that attendees can see which practices also were correlated with the most self-reported happiness. So we want speed to go up, quality to maintain or increase, and even happiness to increase. So we measure all three. The happiness index is a self-reported scale. What we build depends on the class. The effect we want is a build exercise that increases the confidence of the soon-to-be Scrum Masters. During a seminar, the effect of the build exercise is dependent on how refreshed and supported the instructor is at that moment. Really, if I'm the instructor and I'm exhausted, I can't pull the right behaviors. I can't try to pull the optimism that we need for people to see the happy outcome. It's not like I make it happen, but I've got to be ready to receive the student's positivity and pull it. And I think that's true for many instructors. For those of you that are already teaching class, you may know intuitively what I'm trying to talk about. Joe Justice has created a study of 71 Scrum seminars taught in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. These seminars represent more than 3,500 attendees. All attendees self-organized their own Scrum teams with Scrum boards and the 3 Scrum roles, exactly as you did in Chapter 1, Introduction. The teams then build things in 3 or more sprints. Some teams choose to build Lego cities. Some teams wrote software. Some teams folded paper airplanes. Some teams designed and built entire cars with Joe Justice and raced those cars to celebrate. In every case, teams were forced to stop work at the end of each sprint, and their Scrum Master was asked to facilitate a retrospective. How to facilitate an excellent retrospective will be covered in more detail in Chapter 15, Demo and Retro. Here, we will summarize. A retrospective is done or complete when the team has chosen what they will do differently next sprint to be faster and happier and higher quality, or at least maintain quality. The purpose of a retrospective is to choose a process improvement. A process improvement is also referred to by the Japanese word kaizen. The word kaizen has become popular among process improvement professionals, many of whom study the Toyota production system, which uses the word kaizen, which is the Japanese word for good change. After this process improvement, or kaizen, is chosen, the teams start their next sprint. Every sprint, the product owner writes on the group Scrum board a measure of how much work met the quality bar and is therefore done during the sprint. Quality is also measured and labeled. What we have found is that in all 71 seminars, velocity increased across the sprints, the amount of work that met the quality bar, so only quality work. And in 70 of the 71 seminars, quality also increased across the sprints. It did not matter if the seminar was in Tokyo, taught in Japanese with executives and engineering leads from NEC. It did not matter if the course was in Australia, with a mix of military special forces and regular army and civilian specialists. It did not matter if the seminar was held in Tesla in Silicon Valley in the USA. It did not matter if the seminar was in Germany with older, arguably stodgy engineers with decades of entrenched opinions. It did not matter if all attendees were C-level, like CEO, CIO, CFO, or new hires, or even if the attendees were students and kids. Almost no classes were students and kids, but I did have a few. And it did not matter if we were folding paper airplanes, writing software, drawing CAD, cutting aluminum, laying up carbon fiber, programming electronics, laying out circuit boards, or playing with Lego. Every team sped up, and 99% of them increased quality while they sped up. So the point I've just tried to make is there is an exhaustive study that I conducted that did show it's not only possible, it's more than 99% likely, speed will increase with quality also increasing, and I'll show later, happiness also increasing by doing Kaizen, by doing retrospective. So the teams are forced to pause, measure quality, measure output, measure happiness, and then say, what will we do differently next sprint to increase those? Just by doing that, by implying an inspect and adapt process, those metrics can increase. In fact, they did in almost every single case, far and away the majority of the time. This experience might be the most valuable for building confidence for people taking the class. They experience it and they think, okay, now I've done it. Maybe now I can help other people do it. The quotations from respected industry leaders help a Scrum Master know they're in good company. So it's not just the Scrum Master that's experienced this in class, but they see respected industry leaders who have also experienced this and also endorse it. If anyone says this agile stuff is silly, they would also be saying the CEOs of most global companies are also silly, along with the most exciting startups globally. And that helps insulate a Scrum Master from criticism. So it's important in the class to show social proof from respectable sources. That reduces the amount of heckling that the instructor might experience. In some classes truly are aggressive. Scrum is being done to the employees. So you need to structure the class so that it removes the ammunition and allows everyone's mind to open up together, which is what I'm trying to lay out here. These are relatively advanced instructor techniques. Please use them. The business case studies showing successful company restructuring using Scrum teams gives a roadmap to replicate, so people can take some of what happened in other companies and repeat it in their company, or at least understand that it's possible. We will have more on Justice's Law to complete company restructuring in Chapter 13 Sprint and Chapter 16 Switch. I'll actually add that now. And Chapter 16 Switch. The repeated positive business outcomes assure us that Scrum teams as company structures can work across many types of work, maybe even all types of work. Actually doing it, actually building something ourselves in a Scrum team using Scrum in class creates a deeper confidence. Part of this is seeing the group Scrum board metrics from our own team and all the other teams attending our seminar. During the build exercise, the metrics ramp up to an organizational performance level we likely have never been a part of before. I mean, really, these speeds double and double again, sometimes even more than that. It gets really exciting from the people doing it once they see that their exercise is real work with some valid metrics for quality and happiness and output, quality output. That creates confidence. Now, our trained Scrum Master can walk into a company full of Agile teams, and our Scrum Master can see if the teams are simply using Agile words or if they're using Scrum to get performance, because they can see is performance climbing or not. So if they come into a company and they look at their group Agile board and none of the metrics are increasing, they know they're not doing retrospective. They're not doing furikairi in Japanese, or kaizen. Our trained Scrum Master now knows how to look at a Scrum board and see speed and quality, or if the Scrum board is not used, or worse, hiding a team that doesn't yet know how to do Scrum. So some teams might even lie on their Scrum board and show that quality is climbing and speed is climbing. So the Scrum Master must also look at the real product output, the product increment, to see if it matches the board. That's part of coaching. So how to do Scrum in class? Let's use two examples, the airplane game and the WikiSpeed car build. The airplane game is great because it is so portable. The airplane game was first defined for grade school students by a team of brilliant educators in 2009, and the link is here. Those educators are Teresa Abney, Adam Nathan, Don Knob, Lisa Picker, and that was documented on June 9th, 2012. But when they documented it on June 9th, 2012, they referred to doing it in 2009. The game can be run anywhere. We can get a full stack of paper from the nearest office printer. We can step into any venue, anywhere, and reasonably expect the physical requirements to be meetable. The car build is the entire opposite. This activity requires, at a minimum, all the raw materials and tools to create a car. In exchange, the exercise is entirely more memorable. Joe Justice still has past students stop him in the airport, or now on Zoom, because I'm not traveling as much at the moment, to take a picture together and sign a book, saying the car build they did together however many years ago is still the highlight of their professional life. That type of business performance impact is priceless. But again, the logistics are literally heavy. I mean, to ship all the tools and materials to construct a car, it's basically the size of a car. I shipped them via airplane once. At that time, it was just over 10,000 US dollars to send them from the United States into Potsdam, Germany. I think it was right around 10K to send them by airplane. Sometimes we can ship them by a trailer or a truck or a car, and that might be $5,000, $2,000, maybe even less than $1,000, depending on if a truck's going somewhere anyway, but it's a big deal. And it's physically labor intensive to pack the vehicle, prep the vehicle, unpack it, pack it up again. Basically, you add 3 to 5 additional days on top of the time you're going to build the car with the students. It's exhausting. It's really physically intense, and it consumes the entire day. And then you just need to sleep for a while afterwards, or at least I do. But it's super fun. I mean, you make a car. The good news is a build exercise can be run with any type of work, provided it meets the following criteria. The work must be able to be completed and judged for quality within the sprint length. For a car, or at least in sprint 1, the entire product is unlikely to be completed within a single sprint. We're running often 45-minute sprints, sometimes as short as 15-minute sprints. I think we even did 5-minute sprints before. In that case, the product must be modular, where each module is able to be completed and tested within the sprint length. That's what I was doing at Tesla. By the way, you have just grasped why modularity is necessary for Scrum companies or all agile companies. Modularity is used to fit the entire design, analyze, build, test, deploy cycle into a single sprint. For a massive project like the Tesla Semi or Cybertruck, it must be modularized, and the modules must be able to be built in parallel. In that way, if we have a big project like a WikiSpeed car, which is composed of 8 modules, and if we have 8 teams, we can complete the car and test it within one sprint. Now that you know the secret, we will return to the build exercise. First, let us conduct a masterclass on the airplane game. So I'm going to try to say how to enjoy taking a class with the airplane game, the learning objectives of the airplane game, how to teach the airplane game, and expert level instruction of the airplane game. That's what I'll attempt to do now. Here we go. Each Scrum team is instructed in the goal. The goal is that we are now acting as one company with many Scrum teams. One of the teams is a management team responsible for choosing the project that will bring the most value to the company, given what the company can build and what resources the company can access currently. Now, you don't actually have to use one team. It can be an emissary from all teams, or it can be a group vote. In any case, we need to make a decision. What's the one thing we're all going to build? A lot of my clients are traditional companies with hierarchy, and they have a management team. So we use them. We give them an agile job. You can do this with a fully flat organization. If 5 people put their money in together, they all vote, what are they going to build? Or whoever puts in the most money votes. Or 5,000 people, they can rally around a charismatic product owner and select what that charismatic product owner builds. Or you can do like Elon Musk does, and you self-fund. And so Elon picks what everybody builds. There's a huge amount of self-direction and self-organization, but towards the goals that Elon has set. And if you're not working on the goals Elon has set, Elon will stop paying you. This is how that works. You can keep doing it, just not on Elon's payroll. That project would have to be chosen in a meta scrum, where any employee at any level can propose a more valuable goal. Meta scrum, used this way, is explicitly to solve for Volkmar Denner's problem at Bosch, where an idea like Uber would not have survived the many approvals and presentations and reports of the previous Bosch project selection process. Volkmar said he wanted ideas like Uber, but they were crushed. They didn't get approved, because if anyone except the top management came up with an idea, it was too high effort to create all the presentations and create the buy-in to get the idea approved. And it was seen as too risky. So the leadership team is risk averse, typically, and that's a whole other psychological paradigm, but they are. And they don't approve those ideas if they even find out about them. But most of the time, they don't even find out about them, because the process to propose ideas is too laborious. So Volkmar and I worked on Meta Scrum together, so anyone in the organization can propose ideas. Jim Copley et al., in their book, an Agile book, The Spirit of the Game, write about how to use the Meta Scrum to make funding decisions quickly and efficiently. I will be using it in specific ways in this book to make funding decisions quickly and efficiently. And in this case, selecting what are we going to fund? What are the teams going to build? At the start of the airplane game, the goal has already been chosen for brevity. If we had a 3-day class, 5-day class, I could let them choose their own goal. But when I do Scrum Master class, I say, here's the goal. The goal is to build as many paper airplanes across all teams as we possibly can with quality. The all teams part is stressed several times, and teams are asked to help each other to maximize total output. We will come back to this point at the end of sprint 2 of this exercise. The airplanes must be tested within the sprint. Anyone can test, but only the product owner's test counts. The team can rotate who is playing the product owner or any of the Scrum roles, or even trade with other teams at any time, just like real Scrum, just like I did in Tesla. The test is to throw the airplane 3 meters, or about 10 feet or farther. Any plane that fails to fly 3 meters must be put in the recycling bin. It has crashed. Any plane that flies 3 meters has met our quality bar. The product owner updates the group Scrum board, showing how many paper planes successfully passed the test by meeting our shared quality bar. Product owners track how many planes they threw each sprint. Of those, did any meet the quality bar of flying 3 or more meters? And how many partially folded airplanes were left at the end of the sprint, which is our WIP, or work in process. Work in process is a type of waste, where products are not completed yet, but the partial products are taking up space and already took up time and other resources. That is to say, we have made investments, but do not yet have any return on that investment. At the end of each sprint, all WIP is put in the recycling bin. This ensures every sprint starts from 0 planes. Starting from 0 planes ensures that if a team has more planes pass the test next sprint, it is because they have increased speed, not because they had a bunch of partially folded airplanes left over from the previous sprint. And finally, all planes must fly with aerodynamic lift. We've seen a lot, from crumpling up a bald wad of paper and throwing it, which we call the space pod, to nesting 4 or even more sheets of paper on top of each other and folding them all at once and calling it 4 or even more planes. In all these cases, however, the craft are not flying with aerodynamic lift. The space pod isn't using aerodynamic lift at all. And in the nested airplane case, only one plane is flying with aerodynamic lift. The rest are cargo and do not count. It is important to not hand out the paper to the teams, but instead to set the stack of paper somewhere where all teams can see it and can get to it. This way, the teams build the expectation of going to get their own supplies. When building cars or other products with Scrum, it does not scale to have a facilitator running supplies and tools to the teams. Instead, teams need to know where their supplies and tools are likely to be found and be patterned to get supplies and tools themselves as needed. I used to do the paper airplane game where often I was lucky enough to have a co-instructor, and whoever was leading the session would be talking and the co-instructor would pass out paper to the teams. Well, when the teams would run out of paper, they'd just sit there, or they'd try to get the co-instructor's attention and say, may we have more paper? I then saw it happen in the real companies afterwards, where teams ran out of materials, tools, goods, safety and protection equipment, and they just sat there. I started retraining every class. You go get it. Here's where the materials are. In this case, the paper. Here's where it is. Go get it. That scaled. It then scaled into the way their work was. They became more empowered teams going after the supply. That's the mindset I need for fast teams. So I enforce that when I run class. Teams are further constrained that all planes must be folded from 1/4 of a full sheet of paper, whether it's letter in US or some other countries, or it's A4 paper, regardless, it's 1/4. This results in smaller planes, less waste, and less material consumed. Previously, all planes were required to have a blunted tip for safety. However, many Scrum seminars have skipped this step and we don't yet have a recorded injury. Please judge the risk yourself and make the best decision for you and your seminar when you are teaching or participating in this or similar exercise. What I found is if I asked team members to blunt the tip, it was a lot of instructions at once, and already this game has a lot of instructions, and I saw even more people get frustrated and less excited. So I stopped saying anything about a blunted tip, and that kept the energy up. There was one less instruction, one less thing to worry about. And it seemed to me morale went up and recorded happiness scores were higher. But I don't know if that was the only influencer on the happiness scores climbing up. And I haven't yet had an injury, but a pointed airplane nose, I mean, sometimes these teams get really good and the planes are going really fast. It is possible it could injure someone. So I've been taking that risk recently. Please judge for yourself. Here is what I'll show. We're going to have a sprint. They're going to plan, have a daily meeting, a sprint review or demo. They're going to have a retrospective, and they'll repeat that 3 times. At the end, they'll have group agile demo, group agile sprint review, and group sprint review, group retrospective. That's at the end after 3 sprints. A sprint is a small project. Each sprint has 5 Scrum events. Each sprint ends with giving a delivery to the customer. Teams are free to fold any type of airplane they want, use any design they want, organize the work any way they want, have anyone perform any step they want. This is important because I don't want to simulate production only. I want to simulate innovation and the design process. So I don't tell them what airplane design to use, and I have to stress they can use any airplane design they want. And in fact, the airplane design should probably evolve across the sprints. Now it's an R&D and production and test project. That's what we want. Because some people already believe you could speed up making the same thing by practicing, but they don't believe you could speed up design or innovation work. So we want to create that example. We will simulate complex work that any one engineer cannot yet complete alone. To enforce that constraint, we add the rule, one person, one fold. This means that any person may fold any part of the plane, but then must pass the plane to someone else to conduct the next fold. There are so many useful reasons for this in our game. One reason is now the team is much better off if they can agree on one plane design at a time, which means they are figuring out how to make design decisions as a team. This also means now the team can swarm, they can mob, where each team member understands the high-level design to the point that they can work simultaneously without losing the overall design goal. This allows many team dynamics to be tested that are not present in individual work. And it means no one person can finish the product by themselves. Again, allowing for a team dynamic to emerge, which is the key enabler for speed inside a given Scrum team. And we're off. Sprint 1 starts. There is energetic and rhythmic music. I play DJ Baby Ann, Dark Side of the Boom, often, or sometimes some of DJ Baby Ann's other mixes. The reason why is the lyrics are upbeat and the music is upbeat. It's important that it's driving, like workout music, but it's not, oh, I'm so sad you left me, or that kind of thing. That slows down the teams and reduces morale. Ideally, it's feel good and a fast tempo with a steady tempo. A steady, fast tempo. So like positive, uplifting workout music would be ideal for design and production in a team environment. For sessions like sprint retrospective, yeah, classical works better in my experience. Mozart, Bach, I've had higher successes with those. You don't want a high dynamic range. You want a low dynamic range for retrospectives and the work. So people can filter it out, but they feel it. In the case of the techno, or you can filter it out, but it sets a slow, calming rhythm, encouraging brain waves on certain patterns. Honestly, you can research classical music's effect on the brain for the quieter, heavy talking events like sprint retrospective, sprint planning. Build, you want workout music, you want dance music. There are teams that choose to sit and teams that choose to stand. There are teams that have moved their work area to be more near a 3-meter straight path where they can throw their planes, and teams who have their product owner get up and walk to the other side of the room before they throw each plane. There are teams where the product owner throws planes and then sits back down to help fold or wait for folded planes. And there are teams where the product owner shouts back as each plane is thrown, giving their team feedback on which design is flying and which design is crashing, and what they want from the next plane. And then sprint 1 ends abruptly and with immediate finality. The immediate finality is important, or some teams will throw just a few more planes, but that would ruin the accuracy of the test scores that are about to be recorded. The product owners update the group Scrum board, writing how many planes flew 3 or more meters that sprint, how many planes were tested, in this case tested means thrown, and how much WIP is left, partially folded or untested on the table. Some sprints, a team forgets to throw any planes during the sprint and has 100% WIP, and their velocity is 0. You have to be really kind when that happens because you want them motivated in the next sprint. You say, okay, we learned, I get it, this happens sometimes, don't worry about it. But yes, your sprint 1 score is 0 velocity, but now you know what to do in sprint 2. So sprint 2 is going to be way better, something like that. Some of the sprints, a tremendous improvement is found, and the number of planes that flies the distance doubles or even more. Oh yeah, some of the sprints, none of the planes fly 3 meters or more. Yeah, that happens. So here is an older version of a group Scrum board I used. In a future version of the book, I'll attempt to update this. We have sprint 1, 2, 3. The product owners come up to the board and they see each other's. They write their team name and they write how many planes flew 3 meters or more during the sprint. In this case, 0, that's very normal in sprint 1. how many did they throw? 3. And how many partially folded airplanes were remaining and unthrown at the end of the sprint? 2. So that's the whip. Yeah. Now that every team can see how they and all the teams together are performing, the magic happens. The person currently playing the Scrum Master role on each team is asked to facilitate a retrospective. Typically, they have not yet been trained in any of the dozens of formal methods to facilitate an excellent retrospective. Typically, the Scrum Master and the people folding airplanes with them have just met an hour or 2 prior at the start of the Scrum seminar. The teams are asked to support their Scrum Master in discussion and choose one thing they will do differently next sprint to build more airplanes that fly 3 meters or more and have more fun doing it. The teams discuss and they choose. This is called the inspect and adapt loop in Scrum, and it happens right after the sprint review, or the moment when we know how much work met our definition of done and is accepted as done with quality. The sprint review in miniature is the product owners writing the scores on the group Scrum board. The inspect and adapt loop is simply scientific method, an empirical process. As we are using an empirical process here to control the way we work through a regular rhythm of sprints, we call this in process engineering terms, an empirical process control. Sprints and Scrum as a framework is an empirical process control. Scrum is a 2-level empirical process control, but we'll get back to that in chapter 6, 353. We call this, in process engineering terms, an empirical process control. Is an empirical process control. Actually, maybe that's better. And now sprint 2 starts. The teams typically have even more vigor. They have ideas of how to perform and already have some experience relying on each other. Planes start to fly thick through the air continuously during the 3-minute sprint. And time! All teams stop simultaneously, and the sprint is already becoming a rhythm. Teams do not act interrupted or a little annoyed at the end of sprint 2, as many of them did at the end of sprint 1. Instead, there is more body language revealing relaxation and accomplishment, and many teams are smiling. Product owners write their scores on the group Scrum board, but hardly anyone is looking, except for the occasional sideways glance to see if their team is the best. Something unhealthy begins to emerge here. It happens in every case, except when we run the exercise with preschool kids. Preschool kids have not yet entered traditional academia or sports. For nearly all post-preschool teams, conversation moves to how their team can win. Teams start to say how their team is the best, or how their team needs to overtake others, or how their team needs to fight to become the best at the expense of other teams. This is when the instructor calls for everyone's attention. Maybe they use chimes, maybe they raise their hand. In any case, they request full silence from the room. The instructor then reminds everyone that the stated goal of this airplane manufacturing company is to maximize the output across all teams and assist each other. The instructor asks the person playing the product owner of the highest performing team what they did last sprint to help the lowest performing team. The answer so far has always been nothing. The teams are reassured that this answer is completely normal across all companies, all countries, and all cultures. It is important to keep everyone feeling valued and accepted and not injured. So immediate forgiveness here will pay dividends the rest of the class in terms of class engagement and knowledge retention. The instructor then asks the Scrum Master of the lowest performing team what they did to solicit help from the highest performing team or any other team. And the answer so far has always been, we did not ask. Again, immediate forgiveness by the instructor here is important. Then the instructor makes the business point clear. In business, even when the executives say the goal of the company is collaboration to achieve maximum performance, even when teams are specifically asked to help each other, it is not enough. As leaders of agile organizations, we have to do something more to actually get collaboration, for which agile teams are famous and which amplifies performance. We need to command and control something. In Scrum, we command and control the interfaces, and everything else is left up to the teams. This creates the stable framework of Scrum across the organization, while maximizing the innovation and self-management aspects through the Scrum roles on each team. We will try it now. We will command and control the interface between teams. We will have group Scrum. For more information on coordinating large initiatives with many teams and entire enterprises, including supply chains, regulatory operations, and suppliers, please see our book, Group Scrum. So here's what I mean. If we mandate where the interfaces are in a hardware project or a software project, here's where the API is. These are the things on the other side of the API. Now we can self-organize around those interfaces. We can ask teams to self-organize to create the interfaces. We can, but then we have to mandate and enforce them. This minimum consistency, this framework, the interfaces, now allows self-organization to happen. You do also need rapid self-management, rapid feedback. Is my quality going up? Is my quality going down? Is my speed going up? Is my speed going down? Is my team's happiness going up? Is my team's happiness going down? So teams have the evidence to inspect and adapt transparently. You need that too. Tesla does that with machine learning, and it's awesome. So you have your phone telling you how your team's doing, and you can self-manage. You don't need a manager. You can see on your phone the financial efficiency of your team towards the objectives of the company. And that's a really good use for machine learning. So we're going to mandate group Scrum. The Scrum Masters will have Scrum of Scrums to discuss the impediments. How can we improve our process, flow, reduce cycle time, eliminate waste? The product owners will have Meta Scrum. They'll make financial decisions. How can we improve our product, value, performance? The development team will have daily Scrum, daily stand-up. How can we improve our quality, teamwork, pairing, swarming, technical excellence? The developers own their own technical process, technical tools. The product owners own finances, the Scrum Masters own quality and speed. Just to say, working in Tesla after this version of the book was written, we don't use these roles. We didn't need to. We could use open space. The team could be accountable for their mission instead of a product owner. The team could be accountable for their development practices, just like the developer roles were. And the team could also be accountable for their speed and quality and process, like the Scrum Master was. So we didn't have to use formal roles. I like to start with Scrum so that people understand the three roles and then can make it a team accountability. And that's much more like open space and mob, and you don't need the 3-5-3 anymore. So that would be an evolution. It's much faster too. The product owners from all teams are called to meet in front of the group agile board and asked to discuss how to improve the product, the paper airplane, for 3 minutes. Their one goal is to bring an improvement back to all teams, in this case, their team. They are instructed that the fastest team should share, but all teams should then share, as it has been observed that the best performing product, paper airplane folded design, is often someone else's reaction to learning what the fastest team had been building. And therefore, the even better performing product is equally likely to be shared by the lowest performing team after they have seen the previous best performing team. So the best performing team will hold out their plane and unfold it and show how to fold it. And then everyone will react and propose what might be an evolution. And the proposed evolution could come from any team, but they want to first see what the previous best performer was, so they have good data. This is called Meta Scrum. They're making the product decision. What paper airplane are we going to fold? What are we going to build? where the goal and product are discussed. Anyone is welcome to attend this event, Metascrum, but only the product owners talk. The only reason why is so we reduce the number of communication pathways. And even that, you don't want more than 6 if you want collaboration. So there are other scaling tactics, which we'll talk in our books, Group Scrum. Restricting the number of people talking is only to reduce the number of communication pathways. See chapter 14, daily. Other team members talk to their product owner quietly and ask their product owner to bring the good ideas from their team to the Metascrum conversation. For more information on Metascrum, see a Scrum book, The Spirit of the Game by James Copleen et al. The Scrum Masters are asked to stand in a circle in another area of the room where they are still in eyesight and hearing range of the product owners and all the developers. They host an almost identical meeting, but focused on speed improvements by removing impediments to flow. This is often called Scrum of Scrums. Again, for more information on Scrum of Scrums as a repeatable pattern, see the book, a Scrum book, The Spirit of the Game. Now, post the first version of this book, I will simply have teams meet to discuss all 3 topics at once, but in progression, one at a time. Design, quality, and flow. Design, flow, and impediments for speed, and engineering practices. Simultaneously, the developers at their own tables are asked to host a daily Scrum meeting where they discuss what technical practices and work methods they might try to increase quality. In the airplane game, quality is the percent of planes that fly 3 meters out of the total number of planes flown. So how can they more reliably produce planes that will fly 3 meters or more? Note, the developers are not asked to discuss speed improvements. That comes from the Scrum Master's flow improvements. And the developers are not asked to improve the product. The product owners are attempting to do that. The developers are asked to relax, de-stress, and think about how to fold paper airplanes with low defects, how to fold creases well, how to pass the paper smoothly, and orient it clearly and understandably to the next team member. We absolutely want everyone in the room to give improvements to flow, which drives speed, product and goal, which drives value, and engineering practices, which drive quality. Everyone is involved to quietly lobby ideas through their developers, Scrum Masters, or product owners to get their innovative idea considered by the group. This continues for 3 minutes, and then the developers are asked to reunite with the product owners and Scrum Masters and invest another 1 minute together and replan sprint 3. And then sprint 3 starts. The air is a steady stream of paper airplanes. Planes stick into ceiling tiles, wall molding, and whiteboard frames. People laugh. Most teams are standing now in what looks like a relaxed, high-energy posture as they can lean forward and slide plane bits around. Many teams have a product owner folding the last fold and then throwing the plane from where they stand, and calmly but loudly and clearly giving feedback to the team, saying what they need differently on the next plane, or confirming that the design is still performing with quality. When time is called and all the teams stop folding, there is laughter, cheers, sometimes high fives or even hugs. That really depends on the culture of the attendees and where in the world the class is being held. The Sprint 3 scores are posted on the group Scrum board. We will now host a closing retrospective. This is Group Agile Sprint Review, Group Agile Retrospective. The Scrum Masters are asked to ask their teams, what could be changed in your real companies based on what worked in this game? Depending on the class timing, a developer from each team may be asked to share the possible real company change that they believe would have the largest business impact in a real company. Frequently shared ideas are continually replanning during the work, not just up front. Let us build a better product with higher quality and build it faster. Having the product owner and Scrum Masters meet in group Scrum sped all of us up. We could do that in our real company tomorrow. finishing the product in our team, not just planning it or just testing it or just building it. Let us improve the entire flow, and so on. Some instructors write these possible process improvements down and email the seminar attendees as a reminder of what to try when they are back in their real companies. For the airplane game, we usually end here and move to the teachable moment, the enduring lesson we wish the soon-to-be Scrum Masters to take back to their companies and their passion projects and their own studies and their families and their own lives. 1, work can speed up. Many professionals actually believe that there is only one speed for work, only on or off. This has been reinforced by a number of non-evidence-based Masters of Business Administration programs, where hotshot graduate students are taught that the method to increase the speed of work is to add people. This has been known untrue since the publishing of the Mythical Man Month by Frederick P. Brooks Jr. in the 1980s. Brooks published Brooks Law, adding people to a late project makes it later. This has been proven in every industry measured under audit. We will explain this phenomenon and the communication pathways that currently explain our understanding of the cause of it in Chapter 14 daily. Graduate students have been misinformed for years by the iron triangle of management: resources, scope, and time. The idea that the same scope of work could be completed more quickly with the same people, but in less time, breaks the idea of the iron triangle and all the spreadsheet company modeling made from it, including most of the expert organizational consulting brought by established and well-paid mega consultancies around the world. Many of those same consulting companies have since been trained by us and are working to revamp their offerings to match what has been learned by becoming Scrum Masters. All of the major consulting companies now offer agile services. 2, work can speed up and quality can go up at the same time. Many professionals actually believe that if work could speed up, the only way to speed it up would be to sacrifice quality. The reality that applying a forced stop of work and retrospective after making performance visible through the sprint review could actually increase speed and quality is completely outside the prior belief system of many professionals. Because a principle redefining moment has just occurred for some percentage of the attendees of the class, it is important as an instructor to immediately follow through into examples of the principles of this game performing in real work. Here are some projects that Joe Justice has worked on. All of these planes, the Saab Gripen with Airbus, the Mitsubishi regional jet called the Space Jet, the Boeing 777, 787, and the new NMA, new model aircraft, the F-22, the F-35. There's more. That's just airplanes. Lockheed Martin Space Systems, Astra Space. I visited SpaceX when I was a Tesla employee. That's rocket. There's more rockets too, if I think about it. That's just rockets and planes, automotive, medical devices, software. This is such a mental stretch for many attendees compared to business as usual that it must be justified, or it is just an outlandish claim, and the entire class thereafter is suspect of fraud. We immediately share how the examples are actually achieved, which is our next chapter, chapter 4, jets. Note that the airplane game often takes 45 minutes. It is important to have a break just before the airplane game and then present jets quickly and clearly, then make room for the next break. What did I want to say about that? The sprints are super short, but the instructions and then the group agile sprint review and group agile retrospective all together, yeah, it often takes right about 45 minutes. What about building a car in sprints? Joe Justice became well known globally after presenting a 9-minute presentation at TEDx Rainier in Seattle, Washington, USA. In this TED.com talk, Joe explained how he worked as a member. Joe explained how the work was done. Again, I'm trying to remove gendered pronouns. Joe Justice became well known globally after presenting a 9-minute presentation at TEDx Rainier in Seattle, Washington, USA. And in this TED.com talk, Joe explained how the work was done as a member of a volunteer team, creating ultra-efficient cars in 1-week sprints. This shocked hardware organizations globally, where 3 to 7 or even 14-year development cycles are accepted. To host a build event, we will need a modular product, a ready backlog of kits to design and build and test each module of that product, printed signs of the 7 extreme manufacturing practices as listed in chapter 10, XM, extreme manufacturing. There's 11 principles and 7 practices. Self-organizing module teams and as much fun stuff as we can to boost morale, because building cars is difficult and strenuous. More detail, edge cases, principles, and options are presented in our book, WikiSpeed, Ultra Fast, Ultra Efficient, Ultra Fun. All participants do need to sign a safety and liability waiver. Here is the one Joe Justice uses. By signing here, I agree that I release Joe Justice, WikiSpeed Inc., and everyone else for any injury I may sustain. I also agree to release any photos or video taken here into the public domain. Then Joe recommends the following: liability and photo video release, that's what we just did above. Tools, materials, budget per product owner. Yes, I hand cash or my own credit card to the product owners so they can buy stuff during the sprints. That really lights them up. Coordinate product owners with MetaScrum. Coordinate Scrum Masters with Scrum of Scrums. Run all 5 events each sprint, even if just 5 minutes per event. 45-minute sprints with 15-minute breaks seems best if the energy is high. Now we are ready. We have all the materials and tools piled up and a ready backlog on the wall in Post-its. A group Scrum board has been posted for teams to write down how much of the backlog they complete each sprint. The sprint cadence is called by the instructor or timed with music and a large screen, or both. Each sprint starts with MetaScrum, where the product owners meet in front of the backlog and the teams lobby them for what they want to do next. The facilitator moves available backlog on cards from a not ready column to a ready column. Work is held back in the not ready column if it is dependent on something else not yet done or otherwise not immediately actionable. This helps prevent teams from becoming frustrated by selecting work that is not yet able to be completed to the definition of done. For example, the only backlog in the ready column in sprint 1 are to post the 7 XM practice signs visibly around the work area, fan out and group all materials and tools so the materials and tools are all visible from standing in one space. And materials and tools are grouped with similar materials and tools, and the work area is swept clean. As soon as the XM practices are posted, the facilitator moves backlog to the ready column to complete setting up the work area. For example, once the XM practice sign saying safety gear is posted, the instructor will move into the ready column the backlog card saying all safety gear under the safety gear sign. Following these steps, typically in less than 5 minutes, a pile of materials and tools has been transformed into a functional factory space. This is transformative, and we did this in Tesla every day. So there'd be metrics, machine learning generated metrics of what the opportunities are, defects found in field, customer returns, efficiency projects, charging capability, there's metrics. And like an open space agenda, teams would use the law of 2 feet to go to the item they thought they could work on today, just like you would in open space to attend a session. And that session is to work on that topic. So we did that as a version of MetaScrum to make funding decisions. And you could use the law of 2 feet to change to a different team. Then you'd mob on that work item until it was done. So these would try to be cut into 3-hour or less chunks. And these people are experts at CAD, CAM, supplier management, machining, composites, software development, and could get real stuff done in less than 3 hours as these mobs, as these teams. For example, changing the wiring conduits and the insulation and the wiring outside it and the insulation on the charge ports to increase the charging capability to 250 kilowatt hours. It's the people are designing on CAD and feeding tubes into the CNC bender to bend in real time as they change the CAD, and they're testing them on mock cars and then putting them in production continuously, multiple times a minute, until there's a improved version over what was in the cars now. And then that's just delivered to the line to be installed as the new version. It's exhilarating. So they'll go in Tesla and in the Wikispeed build, it feels the same. You have this empty section of building, or even a piece of the parking lot, and you try to get a shade at least, because Tesla's in California and the sun is harsh, you'll get a sunburn. But if you're lucky, you're in a corner of one of the factories, so you have a roof and power outlets. And you just arrive and start producing backlog of what do we need? Do we need a generator? Do we need a battery pack? Do we need a car to work on? Do we need a milling machine? And we forklift stuff around or pull it on carts, and you set up your little factory in minutes. And now you have your factory workspace. And teams that feel empowered to do that are able to solve these projects really fast and self-organize. Next, the teams pull backlog. Teams do this by hosting their own meta scrums whenever they need them now. The teams are given specific instructions that their scrum masters will help remove impediments, like organizing tool sharing across teams. However, anyone can help the scrum masters accomplish this. A recurring risk is the teams working through the sprint boundaries and skipping sprint review and retrospective. If teams work through the scrum events, they just keep building cars instead of doing the scrum events, the team's velocity do not increase sprint to sprint. We recommend the instructor politely but firmly enforce the sprint boundary, enforce stop of work, so we can do at least retrospective. Because what we want is for participants not to build a car. We want them to build a car and see that their speed went up sprint to sprint, their quality went up sprint to sprint, and their reported happiness went up sprint to sprint. Remember, that's the takeaway of the build exercise. Not that you could build a car, but that you can make continuous improvement while building a car in increments, or whatever it is we're building, in this case, a car. We also recommend showing the velocity growth as a result after the fact, so people understand why we forced the stop work. The reader, you, is invited to watch a time lapse of several car build events all over the world, hosted on Wikispeed's YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/wikispeed. Most of these time-lapse videos are tagged with build party and time lapse. So you can search for those terms in the YouTube channel and you'll find many. The morale boost when the car comes together and the people who built it can sit in it. And again, when the attendees can take pictures of it and the vehicle starts to look like a real car. And again, when they can drive it, is almost unreal. So I would use real paper backlog because we're building a real physical car. And here's some of it. Assemble car 001 and test start. Alex, Rich, and Bill said they're going to swarm on that together. They're going to mob. Attach accelerator pedal to pedal plate, et cetera, et cetera. As a product owner for one of these build events, or because there's product owners of teams, I'd be a product owner of a team whose job it is to output the ready backlog. I would be standing by the group scrum board almost the whole time, writing backlog as we go, watching steps. Oh, we broke that tool. Can we buy another one? Is there one that we can get in less than an hour? Otherwise it would miss the build party. You know, it wouldn't be worth it or exciting enough. Do we have enough carbon fiber? Because a team mixed the resin wrong and used up a bunch of carbon fiber, it will never cure. So we have to throw it away. We have to recycle and process it. So do we have enough to try again? So I'm writing backlog and I'm moving backlog from not ready to ready, or sometimes even from ready to not ready. I'm managing the backlog in real time. And I do this where I can see all teams. So ideally you just want a big room with many teams working in parallel. And the layout you'll see in the chapter on XM actually looks like you're looking down on an Intel Core i7 chip. You have these parallel execution lines, these parallel cores, and you're getting from your L1 and L2 cache, which is me creating post-its that they pull from to process. What I want is ready backlog, and my game is to get as much ready backlog that's fun and fits in a sprint, so it can be done in a sprint, immediately actionable before the students arrive. So the day before, with as many people as will help me, because this part's less fun. So many people often don't help, but I mean, this is just another agile activity. We do what's called kitting. Kitting is laying out the tools, laying out the materials, even completing a step and then taking it apart again to say, can we have success with a reasonable level of confidence with what we have here? So often we'll go all the way through a car build and then split it all back down to verify what we have and don't have. Now it's kitted. And maybe there's a plastic bin so you can see inside with a lid, and it'll have every tool required to complete a certain backlog item. Now that's kitted. So this attach accelerator pedal to pedal plate, there would be the pedal plate, which is this big aluminum sheet that's been CNC machined, or maybe they're going to CNC machine it in class, depending on how much time the class has. And next to it is a bin with an accelerator pedal in it, some software instructions, or a link to the wiring diagram, or what we think they might need to reasonably have a chance of success. Kitting is basically research projects. And in real Scrum and real companies, those go in the backlog and the teams help you kit future activities. So every time you see a good idea that's not ready, there's then a research story to kit it, to get it ready. So now you can execute that ready backlog. So backlog creates ready backlog. Okay. Because the most expensive thing to have as a product owner is a blocked team, a team that can't progress because they don't have the right tool, the right material, the right knowledge of the right piece of programming. That's the most expensive in terms of morale and time. You're paying people that can't move forward, they're blocked. So kitting is preventing or reducing the likelihood or time duration of blocks. And that solves the most expensive problem for a product owner, or reduces it. Fail. Sometimes the sprint ends and we are not finished. Failing is about 80% of the sprints. Failing about 80% of the sprints is recommended to keep innovation high. If our teams succeed, maybe you run a build activity across multiple days. Sometimes companies love that. So you might have 10 or 20 or more builds. If you succeed more than 8 builds in a row, 8 sprints in a row, you need to be putting more innovation cards into the backlog where you don't know if it's possible or not, but the team should wrestle with it. I usually make those a different color and I call them innovation cards. And I explain these are more difficult. I don't know if this is possible with what we have. It should be possible in theory, but I don't know if we can do it here. If you pull this card, be mentally prepared it may fail, but also be mentally prepared to innovate because maybe we can pull this off. And teams will self-organize when they pull those cards in Metascrum, when they're ready, when they're energetic. Group Scrum board. Here's a real group Scrum board behind me. There's rows for each module team. That's an older version. Yeah, there's not a column for each sprint on that version. Each team has a row. Each column flows work. So work starts on the left and flows over, and teams have a row across. There's no agile training required if a trained expert coach is full-time embedded with the teams. I would start training with these builds. Okay, let's do it. Play dance music. It's amazing how more effective that was than classroom time. Now, afterwards, having classroom time to fill in gaps was invaluable, but starting with the build was a very effective strategy. But you'd need a coach, in this case, me, but someone who can be guiding the teams as they come across things like the backlog not ready column. How do we use that? So you have someone who answers those questions as we go, an embedded coach. It was one of the best moments of the conference history. We rocked with you. It was awesome. That's Jose Ziaz sharing pictures of building a car in Potsdam, Germany at Agile testing days. Oh, that was super fun. I think we finished in 45 minutes. Building in teams all over the world. This is at Lockheed Martin in a huge, beautiful building called the CLE. And executives and new hires are pairing together, hand in hand. And yeah, here's an executive and here's a new hire, here's an executive and here's a fairly senior engineer, and they're swarming together, in this case, to build a car suspension out of aluminum. And they're drilling and cutting and marking and making engineering decisions in these very short sprints, less than 45 minutes. The sprints are truly a flat organization because we're rotating who's in the product owner, scrum master, and developer role anyway. So there is zero hierarchy that lasts anyway. Sprint review, make it as much fun as possible. Lights, dance music, if you're allowed to drink tequila, whatever you can. We want to amplify the sense of accomplishment, the healthy sense of accomplishment whenever there is healthy accomplishment. That's important, and it creates the energy that flows into the next sprint. I mean, if you had alcohol, hopefully that's in the last sprint or the last sprint of the day. Some additional words of encouragement and experience. Hosting a build party takes at least a full day before to prepare the materials and tools, sometimes 3 days. It also takes about a day after to store the vehicle that was built, or sell it, or deliver it, or break it back down into modules or materials for a future build event. Logistically, it is massive. The memories are worth it. The morale and confidence imparted are impossible to replace. The professional network earned from these activities has a depth and loyalty as if you have truly accomplished something transformative together, because you have. But be ready for the commitment and physicality. Eat well and sleep well as best you can the week before and after. And doing a build event every week or one every day is a real test of your healthy lifestyle. You have been encouraged and warned, and we are wishing you luck and success. I'd like to call out to Big Orange Square. This company is amazing. They do build events based in the middle of the United States, but they can take their product anywhere. They do that now. That's Hubert Smits, and oh, he's even a good friend of mine. Shame on me. I'll attempt to add it in a later recording. I'm so sorry. We're actually just talking on Facebook. And another awesome instructor. I'm sorry. We also invite you to consider joining Team Wikispeed at www.wikispeed.org. Actually, I did change it to .com. I mean, .org will redirect, but the native URL is .com now. Wikispeed is a global nonprofit organization pulling work that contributors are excited about from the backlog of projects, which is hosted on the website. Interested people all over the world are encouraged to work alone, or better yet, in Scrum teams, and even better yet, in teams of teams as a group Scrum, to accomplish one of the projects and post their sprint review on Wikispeed's YouTube channel. This is an entirely self-managing honor system, open and transparent method, and yet has produced 4 world records in life-critical, highly regulated industries. This encompasses much more than only Scrum, however. Scrum Masters are the necessary ingredient on each team to provide the mechanism to coordinate across large groups with Group Scrum. For more reading on the crowdsourcing, morale building practices, momentum building practices, frugal practices, social good practices, and growth mindset in a post-growth market, we recommend you enjoy our book, Wikispeed, ultra fast, ultra efficient, ultra fun. At this point in the Scrum Master seminar, our Sprint 1 burn down chart may look a lot like this one. This burn down chart is from a seminar in Japan, where the seminar starts at 10 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m. with happy hour. So we've just finished build here. That means it is time to take a 15-minute break. Please get up, stretch, walk outside, let fresh air into your room, use the bathroom if you need to, and ideally exercise a little bit.